able to sort out the YouTube live stream? Oh, there we go. Perfect timing. Okay, welcome everyone to our 25th Town Hall, our first for 2019. For everyone who's kind of been away, taking a break, welcome back. I think, you know, it was a crazy 2018, and you know, this Town Hall we're kind of going to dedicate and focus and talk about what our focus is going to be for the first half of 2019, and I think it's something that a lot of us are incredibly excited about. Jared, if you're there, do you want to kind of kick things off?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So Nabil and I kind of doubled up on what we're going to say, so I'll let him pretty much take over it. But I just want to welcome everybody back. Hope you had a chance to recharge and recuperate. 2018 was kind of crazy, and it seems like we're going to have a pretty strong 2019 moving forward. Next 2 quarters, basically just focusing on whatever's in the swarms there. So, like, thankfully, we've got a lot of that out of the way, and hopefully we can just execute and deliver on our white paper promises. Just want to say thanks again for looking at us, and it should be a lot of fun. All right, peace.
Awesome. So, since everyone's kind of been on break for the past 2 weeks, we don't have any specific team updates. What we do have is we'll be just quickly going through some things around first half of 2019, and then talk a bit about some of the processes around that. So as we kind of discussed at the end of, you know, throughout December, our top priority is to deliver on our white paper, and then also have a secure, stable, and polished application. We've identified from the white paper a handful of S&T utility that we'll go through in a second. This was kind of touched on in December, but we'll talk about it a bit again, is that there's a swarm started called the janitors. It's basically we are responsible, a group of people responsible for delivering on these white papers and helping to facilitate all the different swarms. So like what's the process we should be using? What's the best way to unblock certain teams, resource allocation, things like that. You can see the names of the people there. The team meets weekly and potentially bi-weekly, just as often as possible to make sure that we have as much cadence and can reflect on what we've been doing, making sure teams have what they need and we can move quickly and not block anyone. So if this is the first time you're hearing about it, check out the link that's on the slides that'll be shared around to the GitHub issue that explains what swarms are. What the swarm janitor team is. Looking at what the S&T utilities that are being implemented right now, they're the ones that were in the white paper and that we think that they're feasible for us to implement right now, and the timing makes sense. We have these 5, which are Node Incentivization, Tribute to Talk, the dApp Store, the Telenetwork, and the Sticker Market. Each swarm goes through 3 stages. We have the research, the specification, and the implementation phase. There's leads for each. This is kind of an overview of all of the utilities in one slide. Starting from a fortnight from now, each one of these 5 will have a template like this.
I'm not seeing any slide changes. Is that just me?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any either.
Okay, one sec. Let me stop sharing and reshare and see if it makes a difference. Okay, give me 1 second. All right, I'll just do it like this. Oh, wow. There was no slide changes at all the entire time.
Nope.
Oh, damn. That was embarrassing. Okay. All right. I mean, I said the words already, but here our top priority is to deliver on white paper promises and have a secure and stable application. So we have the swarm janitors. You can see the link there at the top. When the slides will get shared around, you can check it out. I'm assuming this is coming through okay. And you can see it in detail specifically what the goal of the swarm is. Essentially, this is people who are there to ensure that we complete all the S&T utilities of the white paper to make sure the application gets developed. This is the progress of our top 5 that we're currently working on. You can see them there on the left: node incentivization, attributed talk, dApp store, telenetwork, and sticker market, and the stage that they're in, and who's working on it. So this is kind of an overview. We'll be migrating to this template, and I think there's already some teams who have implemented this template. So a visual representation at the top here of exactly what part of development you're going to be at, as well as any updates and progress since last time. And something that's new will be coming up with an approximate cost of how much the swarm has been, so that when we do move into a DAO model, people will be able to correctly or roughly anticipate what the cost is going to be for a certain feature. So for example, tribute to talk costs, say, $50,000 versus node incentivization that costs $200,000, right? And so we're going to use these 5 as good examples of approximate cost for getting major features built for platform-like status. So we have already some templates that have just started. We have the network incentivization. You can see here, they're at the very beginning of research. The goal is for the research to be done by the end of January. I don't know if Igor's on the call, if you want to give like a 20, 30-second summary. If not, then you can see it here. You can see the swarm issue specifically here, where everything is tracked and updated on what this is going to be. So as I said, this gives you a good indicator of exactly where the project is right at the beginning. We have tribute to talk, which the research phase has come to a completion, and there's a little review phase here, and a specification has started. Once again, you can track progress along here, and this is what progress has been done so far since the last town hall. And finally, we have it for the sticker market, which is around this around the same stage, just completed research, and yeah, the progress. So the goal of these slides, which we'll update every fortnight, is for people to be able to check what the progress has been and be able to kind of get a summary of, okay, here's where each feature is at, and hopefully kind of monitor and track the progress and help follow along or potentially give ideas throughout the process. In order to do this across a bunch of teams, we're using a tool that the Embark team has been using relatively successfully, which is Pivotal Tracker. I'll let Rachel kind of give a quick overview of how we are using this to be able to track all the various swarms. Rachel, you there?
Yeah, right on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, so it will require a little bit of a process adjustment for everybody, but we're asking you to work with it hopefully for at least the first few weeks and see if it works for us, because it should provide good transparency into where teams are at and also help with estimation. So the basic steps here I've included on this slide. Basically, you add any feature or bug or chore that you're working on that's significant in some way as a story to your backlog or icebox. And when you do that, you can add details within. You can include GitHub links, you can assign people, all that good stuff. As a rule of thumb, we think that anything more than, say, 4 hours of work should probably be tracked in Pivotal. Step 2, when something's ready to be worked on in a new iteration, you just drag it over to your current iteration backlog. And then as a team, you can drag and drop to order stories by importance for each given iteration. Pivotal Tracker actually creates iterations automatically for you, so you don't have to mess with dates or anything like that. You can just set the intervals that your iterations are happening in. And I've updated the settings for each project so that we have control over which iteration a given story fits under, rather than Pivotal automating that as well, which they would do. And then it's really helpful if the swarm lead or developers can also add an estimate to each story for how many points they think it's worth in terms of effort. So on the right-hand side, you see you just have to select one of those little bars. And of course, the more bars, the higher the effort. So that's about it. There's also the opportunity to integrate with GitHub. I think we have to set up a global integration with our GitHub account. I'm not sure if that's set up yet, but once we do, if you grab the story ID for a pivotal story, which you'll find within the story details, and you include it in the GitHub branch name and commit messages, it will automatically pull in the relevant PRs and branches and commits. So I also linked the instructions here on this slide, but they're easy to find. And yeah, these boards are also totally public to view. We've put links to each project in the appropriate Swarm write-up within our Swarms repo on GitHub.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Rachel. If anyone doesn't have access to Buildable Tracker or is like incredibly confused as to what this is and why we're using, just ping Rachel or myself and we can get you set up and kind of give a quick update. Basically, the point of this is not to it's not to spend a lot of time on it. I think the core team has already started to use this and it's actually making life a little bit easier because you've got these labels and it's very easy at the beginning of each week to kind of plan what is going to be tackled for the next week. And the point system is simply meant to be able to give realistic estimates of what can be done in a given time frame. So it's meant to be relatively lightweight and allows everyone to be able to give help prioritize what should be worked on. So I think this is something that will become more and more commonplace for each swarm over the coming weeks. Cool. The other priorities for status outside of the SNT utilities are the DAO, which is something that Yuri and Co are working on. Core improvements, which is kind of a swarm, but it's more a overall polish. So it doesn't really have an end. It's just consistently working on improvements and optimizations for the app itself. There's the protocol effort, which is a longer time frame, and it's most likely going to be in collaboration with other teams. So it's not in the traditional model. And then obviously we have other projects that we're also working on, which is things like the key card, desktop, and Nimbus. And we'll probably continue to get more detailed updates like we had last year, which is say like every couple months, a 20-minute overview with team progress, things like that for the other teams, rather than the high frequency cadence that we'll have for the others, for the SNT utility swarms. And for the core improvements, this is something that Igor has also kind of put into this model. I think he's having issues with unmuting himself. So I'm going to see if I can help there. I think so he can talk. If someone's...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, thanks. Yeah, so we also put it through the same framework, the core improvements thing, except that essentially research and specifications were the backlog prioritization, more or less. Like research phase was more or less to try to get the backlog items, like to talk to different people and get it all together. And then specification phase was to specify them a little bit more, put them into Pivotal, and then reorder them like into some prioritized list. And then yes, that's the same thing. Essentially the same slide. Now we are already implementing it.
For those who just want to see what it looks like, it's relatively straightforward. You have backlog of iterations that get done. You have the icebox, which is your backlog, and epics are essentially like bundles of features. So slow sign in has, a bunch of stories assigned to it, and you can check the progress with these color bands. There's a very high information density in this UI, so it takes a bit of getting used to, but once you do, it's actually quite useful to see how things are progressing. So feel free to play around, spend some time with it over the coming days, kind of familiarize yourself with it and get used to it, and it's pretty awesome. The last thing that I want to quickly discuss is this idea of metrics as we go into 2019. I think we spent a lot of time in 2018 working on things without having some clear ideas of what we're trying to optimize for, and what's considered kind of success or health metrics, as you'd like to call it. And I've kind of bundled these into three areas. Jared and I have been discussing over the past month, and I thought we'd share this widely to see if there's other people have thoughts as well, which is, one is around developer contributions and people kind of contributing and being part of the community. And it's incredibly important for us to be focused on this for the longevity of the project. Second is from a financial perspective and constantly monitoring, things like our burn rate, how status is doing relative to the other cryptocurrency, revenue when we get there, and things like that. And finally, network health. So how we're going when we have our nodes online, how many nodes we have, how many users are actually using the application, things like that. So these are things for us to think about, so that in maybe a month or two, we'll finalize these and everyone can kind of have a very clear idea of, by the end of 2019, or we want to hit these goals. And throughout 2019 and 2020 and every year, these are the things that are incredibly important for the project. So we're very early days, but I thought I'd kind of put these out there for now so people get an idea and can suggest other ways of measuring things, and just kind of creating that focus and culture of measurement. Awesome. I think that kind of summarizes our kind of what we're focused on for the first half of 2019. If people have questions, feel free to shoot. We don't have any other detailed updates from People Ops, because People Ops have had a very busy November, December, and kind of taken the past couple of weeks off. So if there's any questions or anything like that, feel free to chime in now. Otherwise, we'll have a pretty short town hall this week. Anyone? Nothing? Anything on YouTube or?
No, I just think, it's been really awesome to see everybody come around the new Swarm framework and put everything together so quickly before the break. So it's really awesome to see that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more research, getting specs out, and executing on this stuff. Hopefully, we'll have a ton of fun doing it as well.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully, as I said, if people have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Rachel, especially with some of the things that are different this year that we're going to be trying. And if you have any suggestions on how things can be improved. Otherwise, have a great couple weeks, and we'll come back in a fortnight from now with hopefully some teams giving some demos, as well as updates from all the swarms. Thanks everyone, and have a great start to 2019.